question then is, what's the most important thing practitioners in the field should take away from today's presentation? Eric Warner, I want to start with you.
Sure. From my perspective, sort of the boots on the ground, we are looking, and we say this often, that we, unlike the Department of Justice, we do not have targets. We are trying to determine whether violations of the federal securities laws happened, and if so, whether it's appropriate for us to recommend enforcement action. To the extent that we can get cooperation from counsel and from individuals, witnesses that we talk to help us gather that information, the easier it makes our lives, the better it is. And for every case where someone will say, why would I want to cooperate? You're just going to end up suing my client. I can point to a case where I found that because of that cooperation, I was able to get a better understanding of the facts, of the evidence, and oftentimes the industry in which we're looking to determine that there was no violation, where had that cooperation not taken place, I, my staff, or others may have come to a different conclusion. So to the extent that you can help us understand the evidence, help us understand the industry, that is appreciated and will help us do our job. We are not incentivizing people. We are not paid based on the amount of disgorgement or civil penalties received. We are not paid any different the amount of cases we bring. We are paid to look into whether violations occurred. So we get paid whether we bring cases or not, and I think first and foremost, we are trying to make sure that we get it right. That said, the Commission has and will probably forever run across people who are doing improper things, and when we see that, we are doing the best we can to identify individual conduct and responsibility by specific individuals when we determine to file an action against them. With that, I'll move on and let the other two speak.
Susan Markell?
Sure. I think my takeaway on this echoes what Eric is saying in the sense that the Commission staff is trying to protect investors, whether it be on the retail front or whether it be on the financial reporting side. And so I think if you're a company or an individual and you're facing some type of financial reporting investigation, if you get that request or response from the government, you shouldn't just look at it as if it's the government's problem and that now they're looking into it. You really ought to take it internally and think about why they might be asking that question, and first and foremost, think about, do you have a problem at your company that you need to address? Whether it's through the financial numbers, whether it's through disclosures or your controls, and look inward, look to see if you have a problem. If you do, there's, as Eric said, ways to address that can fix it and not make the problem worse. And I think cooperating with the SEC does take you a long way. And as Eric said, I have seen a number of cases where companies we've been working with have been better off because they did go down that cooperation element. It just gives the Commission, I think, a sense that this is a company that gets it and isn't a company or individuals who might be likely to get into trouble again. So cooperation to me is key.
And Milena Dulakanyan.
Thank you. And first and foremost, do not violate federal securities laws. That's the most important thing. And if you happen to be investigated by the SEC, whether you're not an attorney, if you're an attorney, obviously you need to make sure you advise your client of all the laws and regulations, and to make sure that your client takes an SEC subpoena very seriously and complies with all the document requests, and thoroughly prepare your client for the SEC testimony. And if you're not a lawyer, then obviously the most important thing is to hire a lawyer who can assist you in responding to a subpoena and testimony, and hopefully negotiating a settlement if possible, to not let that go to an enforcement action. And I will join in on what Eric and Susan said, that cooperation is key in this situation. It's not like having a litigation with a private party. You're litigating, if you get to a litigation stage, you're litigating with the government. So it's advisable to cooperate with the SEC attorneys, with the staff members, to try to come to a resolution before the investigation hits an enforcement action. Thank you.